Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Dana Burnett, the Managing Director for WorldLink Medical, and I will be moderating today's event. I would like to mention a few quick items before we begin. First of all, please make note of the features available to you within your GoToWebinar internet browser. In the lower right corner of your screen, you should see a chat box where you can enter your questions to Dr. Purser. They will be answered at the end of the presentation as time allows. Please also note there is a handout included. It is located just above the chat area. Click on it to download. It is a formula sheet Dr. Purser will refer to later in his talk. This web conference is brought to you by WorldLink Medical. We provide evidence-based CME accredited education in preventive medicine and age management with a focus in bioidentical hormones. Feel free to visit our website for additional information on course offerings and dates for 2017. Today's event is sponsored by Nutriscriptives, specializing in a practitioner line of supplements and services to assist physicians and patients to live a better life. We appreciate their educational support for this webinar. Dr. Dan Purser graduated from Brigham Young University and the University of Mississippi School of Medicine and practices here in Linden, Utah. I personally have known Dr. Purser since 2000 when he started attending the BHRT courses with Dr. Rouzier. His interest in BHRT led him to focus for many years in the area of traumatic brain injury, and he remains one of the leading experts in this field today. Just like Neil Rouzier, Dan Purser seeks answers to the root causes, not just treating symptoms. Some of his more difficult patients suffer from fibromyalgia, and so began another quest for why. Here is his story. Welcome, Dr. Purser. We are so glad you could join us today. Hello.
Hey, Dana. Thank you for letting me chat with you and go over this little talk that's been so popular. And I really appreciate getting this opportunity. You know, spreading the gospel about how to treat fibromyalgia. There's just not a viable treatment. And I'm going to give everyone a really simple approach that we've figured out. This study's coming out in 3 national pain journals here eventually, that I'll talk about the study we did in our office, and hopefully it'll be really helpful to everyone. Treating fibromyalgia is incredibly simple when you really understand what it's probably about, and so let me go through this. I'll just run through my PowerPoint really quick. We're going to fly on this because I have a lot to cover. This is me, a picture of me off my cover of my books. And do I have control of the PowerPoint now? Not yet. It's not responding. Okay, there it goes. I'm in a cosmetic reconstructive surgery practice in Utah, but I deal with complex wound issues, healing problems, stuff like that. I did a lot of endocrinology research in Southern California, which has a lot to do with this topic today, because the fellow I did research with down there was a U.S. Assistant Surgeon General, a pituitary endocrinologist and cardiologist who's head of the American Academy of Clinical Endocrinology for a while, so you're going to get to hear some of his opinions, at least through me. And I've actually had 14 #1 books on Amazon now. I just had another one go to #1. And so for some reason, people like to read my books. And I love problem patients. I love figuring out root causes, like you said, just like Neil. Except for I'm nowhere near as good as Neil is at it. So my AMA disclosure, have to give it. 30-year member. I'm my Utah Medical Association rep for 12 years now. Being paid no, I'm not being paid honorarium today. This is from my my A&P talk I gave in the same on the same PowerPoint. I've written papers on this subject. They're about to be published. Also my own medical opinion, not officially representative of any of my various companies I own and operate. And not selling any products other than suggesting some general supplement ideas in this course. Trying to follow CME rules, even though this isn't CME worthy. So it started here. I had a patient in Alabama. She had read one of my #1 books based on HRT for fibro. The guy I did research with down at USC thought all fibromyalgia was related to lack of key hormones like GH, testosterone, stuff like that. And so I'd written a book on that and validated it and researched it and had all the appropriate references. And I got a ton of fibro patients contacting me from all around the country and flying in and stuff. Most of them got better, some just not all the way. Most just not all the way. So HRT is critical, and that's where you guys come in clearly, but HRT is critical to the care of these patients and improvement, but it's not the answer. I couldn't figure out why they didn't get better. So then that patient of mine in Alabama, she's married to a physician down there. She told me a really interesting fact. We were doing a FaceTime on her HRT issues and her fibro, and she said her fibromyalgia worsened when her free copper was high. So that's a really weird thing to say. I made a note of it in the chart, and we talked on. She said no pain when her free copper was low. And it made me go, huh, what did she mean by that? I never heard that terminology before. And like any out-of-the-box doctor, I did then ask, what the heck is free copper? And how do we deal with it? So this talks about free copper, the problems it causes, like fibromyalgia, vascular headaches, like migraines, and why you might want to care about this. We're going to get more specific as we go. So it all starts with pyrrole disorders. What are pyrroles? Pyrroles or cryptopyrroles form in our blood to get rid of waste through the kidneys. It's a packaging system we use to get rid of toxins from our body. And pyrroles are really critical. They need GSH, which is reduced glutathione. That's a big part of this whole process. So we're going to talk more about reduced glutathione. I've written books about it. We've done studies on it. I maybe know more about glutathione than most humans on the planet. So, and their need in glutathione or reduced glutathione, GSH, is needed to conjugate the pyrroles to help you get rid of it. So it does need glutathione to conjugate. And there it is conjugating on the right picture of it. GSH neutralizes the pyrroles. If you don't have GSH conjugation, then when the unconjugated pyrroles enter the kidneys and urinary tract, they pull zinc and vitamin B6 with them. Now, hang on, this is kind of a circuitous process we're going to go through, but you'll see. Almost like diuretics pull potassium. Is urinary pyrrole indeed a disease? Some people feel it's not. As an MD, I can tell you it does exist. This spectra cell to the left was from a patient who flies in from Australia to see me. And as you can see, she has a zinc deficiency on her spectra cell. See it at the top there, right there. And she has severe urinary pyroluria. She takes 700 milligrams of zinc picolinate a day. That's 10 times the RDA, by the way, which is 70 milligrams. But her kidneys have not failed, and she still has a zinc deficiency. She has the worst urinary pyroluria on the planet, just terrible. So, and so I also think she has some fibro symptoms too. And last time I saw her, we talked quite a bit about that because I was just getting into this entire concept. So why copper? Well, so zinc is sucked out of the body, right, through the lack of conjugation of the pyrroles. And out of desperation, the human body replaces zinc with the closest similar metal. And let's look at the periodic table so you can see which one it is. It's copper. So zinc is replaced with copper by the body. And like zinc is number 30 on the periodic table and copper is 29. They're very much similar, and your body confuses the two. And is copper a problem? Yeah. Copper, like zinc, is attracted to muscle tissue. With time, the copper gets into every muscle in the body, eventually every fiber. This includes gut muscles. That's why these patients have gut problems. Copper is also attracted to inflammation. And here's a paper on it. Role of metallothionein, copper, zinc metabolism, special reference to inflammatory conditions. We'll get more into this as we go. But they mentioned metallothioneins. Metallothioneins are critical to this discussion. And as a matter of fact, this study really became all about metallothioneins. So natural sources of copper. These patients tend to eat a lot of avocados, guacamole, almonds, cashews, shellfish, the kale. Those are the 5 bad ones. And you'll find that they eat a lot of those in their diet usually. And if they'll shut those out of their diet, with fibromyalgia, a lot of their symptoms will go away from that alone. But remember, the patient is not taking in too much copper. They just can't seem to properly get rid of the copper they have. Because of a number of reasons, their metallothioneins are not properly working. After many weeks and months of pondering what was going on, reading article after article, that's kind of what I concluded. It was a metallothionein problem. Your body couldn't move the copper around where it should be. So copper causes trigger points, right? The relationship between serum trace elements, vitamin B12, folic acid, and other elements in the study out of 2010, according to the results, it was asserted that trace elements, and they talk about copper in here, played an important role in the pathophysiology of myofascial pain syndrome. By the way, that's fibromyalgia, also known as trigger points. Copper causes muscle aches, and they get into it in here, how they had a diminished total antioxidant capacity, diminished zinc levels, and they also talk about copper in here, and musculoskeletal aching. So copper causes migraines too. In patients with acute migraines, the level of trace elements and other heavy metals may have a role in the genesis of considerable oxidative stress in patients with acute migraine. I know these are vague. These aren't very exact, but there's some interesting points. Sorry, my emails keep going off. I'm not going to shut it off, so hang on here. So no NCC was used. No non-ceruloplasmin copper formula was used. We're going to get into that here in a minute too. They didn't calculate that in any of these studies, and should have. 3 previous articles also all noted low zinc levels. Isn't that interesting? Remember that zinc is diuresis with pyrroles causing a deficiency. If pyrroles are indeed part of this, and I had a practice full of fibromyalgia patients, a lot of them with severe headaches like migraines and chronic muscle tension headaches, stuff like that that no one could even deal with because of their severe fibro. As a researcher, it made me go, as I read these articles and just kind of stretching to put things together. So high-free copper means what? The non-ceruloplasmin-bound copper NCC level is greater than 20%. NCC is a validated and widely used formula, and that's what that handout's about that you can download. High NCC means high oxidative stress, and so much more. If you can get the following 3 labs: serum copper, serum zinc, and ceruloplasmin. I've gotten to the point now with fibro patients, I don't even bother anymore with the labs. I've treated over 150 patients now, and if they have fibro, I'm just going to treat them because it goes away so quickly after years of suffering. It's crazy. So I don't even, you're just going to have to try this and see for yourself. So the cost of these labs, my office costs around $300. So it's relatively cheap. I have a cash-only practice. I don't deal with insurances. So let me explain the NCC. Look at that handout if you can. If you don't have it, download it. First, we need to get the 3 measurements in the same unit. It's really critical so you don't mess up the formula, preferably micrograms per deciliter. And then number 1 will be your zinc results. You want to get them in micrograms per deciliter. Number 2 will be your total copper My lab gives all this in micrograms per deciliter, so I don't have to convert it. So that too, convert it using the formula. Ceruloplasmin, which is really critical, you want to do it to micrograms per deciliter. Also, all of them. And I usually have to multiply my ceruloplasmin number by 1,000. And I'm going to give you several examples here. We'll work through them. Now calculate the ratios. Calculate the copper to zinc ratio. Divide the copper, number 2, by zinc, number 1. You want to be between 0.7 to 1.0. This is a ratio. And you'll know if the patient's well above that right away. Calculate the amount of copper bound in ceruloplasmin. And you multiply everything by the micrograms per deciliter by 0.003. So it'll end up being a number like 72 or 84 or 96. Calculate the amount of copper not bound in ceruloplasmin. You just subtract the total copper, number 2, by the copper bound in ceruloplasmin, number 5. And the reference range is 5 to 15. If they're above that, trouble. Now this is the money number. This is the big number that counts. Calculate the percentage of non-ceruloplasmin bound copper. It's called the NCC. And you want to be below 20% and above 5. But below 5, you get visual problems and other enzyme problems and stuff. High NCC is greater than 20%. Highest I've seen is 72%. A crippled, severe fibromyalgia patient that the family had to bring in a wheelchair. Yeah, it was horrible. So use the NCC with me now. Let's run through these. Zinc is 98, right down there. Hard to read it, but it's 98. Total copper is 168. They're both micrograms per deciliter. And their ceruloplasmin is 24. So I had to multiply it times 1,000 to make it micrograms per deciliter, so it came out 24,000. Calculate the copper to zinc ratio, divide number 2 by number 1, it's 1.71. That's high. Remember, 0.7 to 1.0 is the range. Copper bound in ceruloplasmin, 24,000 times 0.003 equals 72. Copper unbound, 168 minus 72 equals 96. That's high. And the NCC percentage, 96 divided by 168, is 57.1% super high. Look at the age of this girl. She's 28, up there, right up there in the upper part of the slide. She had severe fibromyalgia and severe migraines and a bad seizure disorder daily. She was having seizures. Now, no pain, zero fibromyalgia. Seizures maybe occur once a quarter. It's been so long since she's had a seizure that she's thinking of stopping her seizure meds. They're really high in copper. Most seizure meds are. I'm not sure why. But just the way they're designed pharmacologically. But she's going off her seizure meds. That was a month or so ago, and she said she'd keep in touch if she had another seizure. So I guess she hasn't. So I'm not saying this works for all seizure patients, but for this lady, it seemed appropriate. And we talked to a neurologist who's a friend of mine, and he agreed and everything. So we tried it, and here she is. No pain, no fibro. She's got one child, and her fibromyalgia started after that, and she's done amazingly well. Let's keep rocking along here. Though not perfect, the NCC is validated. And here's a little comment about it in Journal of Clinical Pathology 2007. It's because the ceruloplasmin ratios can be off. The assays have a certain amount of uncertainty, but it's still close enough. If you're curious, how to lower non-ceruloplasmin bound free copper, this was the real question I had when we did the study. And I really chose a shotgun approach because the testing and digging down to find out why the metallothioneins weren't working was just too expensive. So let's look at this. Here's a picture of metallothioneins. Help the body to do it naturally was the way I was going to approach this. My goal was to increase metallothionein enzyme activities. And metallothioneins are 23 enzymes that move heavy metals and other metals such as copper around in your body. So you have one for silver, gold, cadmium, mercury, lead, on and on. You go iron, stuff like that. They move metals around. So you can see this diagram, metal ions. They also help the body get rid of cytokines and growth factors, oxidative stress, radiation. They also have free radical scavenging activity. And you need zinc, a zinc donor, to help it. So cell survival, cell growth, drug resistance, and differentiation are all critical to metallothionein function too. So this is really about supporting the functionality of patients' metallothionein enzymes. That's kind of what I concluded as I got into the middle of the study, that what was really going on was these patients had a dysfunctional metallothioneins. And I know this is so out there that it's hard to imagine that it works, but it worked amazingly well. And in order to properly move metals around their body, if there's 7 or 8 or 10 things you've got to do to support metallothioneins and help them function correctly. And that's the thing I was talking about. It's too hard to figure out what was missing to make their metallothioneins dysfunctional, so I used a shotgun approach. Let's look at that metallothionein again. There it is. So now you know all that it does. Metallothioneins need GSH to function. That's reduced glutathione to conjugate to and then to remove the toxin or metal. See it? GSH attaches, uses selenium to react to help get rid of or help grab the metal in question. It's reduced glutathione. It should be stable, absorbable, and validated. Guess what? Before we started the study, there wasn't one on the market that did that. There wasn't a stable, absorbable, validated glutathione out there. And if there was one, it wasn't accessible to the public that we knew about. We looked at everything on Amazon. We looked at all the patents out there, everything. Why inaccessible real GSH? Effects of oral glutathione supplementation on systemic oxidative stress biomarkers in human volunteers. I've read this study 100 times. This is from Bastyr University in Kenmore, Washington. It's a naturopathic school. Remember, GSH is really reduced glutathione. Must work. These patients need it desperately for whatever reasons, either from age, either from illness, or from genetic problems. They can't make enough glutathione, like almost a reduced glutathione, I should say. Got to be really specific about that. They can't reduce the glutathione they have. And kids with autism are really suffer from this. 98% of kids with autism cannot make or reduce glutathione appropriately. Should be effective and has to be oral. Oral because it's that way it's FDA approved as a supplement, and that way it's accessible. Validated, meaning it really works and has been tested. In this study, they couldn't find one that worked. It has to be stable, meaning it has a shelf life. Absorbable, meaning it's readily absorbed either orally, hopefully, or topically. So, and ours is oral or topical, works either way. Reduced, meaning it's GSH, not glutathione. Accessible, meaning you can get it anywhere. Maybe not because we're only selling it to MedQuest at this point. So no significant changes were observed in biomarkers of oxidative stress, including glutathione status in this clinical trial of oral glutathione supplementation in healthy adults. This is a landmark study, and they could not get 2 grams of glutathione to work a day. Had no benefit over a 30-day period. And we use the exact same test that they used when we developed our product. So, and like I said, we have one that works. So it's worth a try. Okay. So this is showing you how pyrols detox with the glutathione. Right there. Sorry, I can't read the bottom part. Uses glutathione to conjugate and detox. Right there. Boom. The glutathione conjugate is what passes out either through your liver or through your kidneys. So you need GSH for pyrrole conjugation, metallothionein functionality, and a lot more. So metallethionines also need molybdenum. Molybdenum is really interesting. It's not in any vitamins almost at all that I could find. It's very important to the metallethionine process. It's a cofactor for all 23 metallethionines. It forms molybdopterin. There it is. It's absent in most diets and rarely in vitamins. I think it's the big missing link along with a functional GSH. So it's definitely a couple of the things we used in the study. RDA is only 50 micrograms per day. Metallethionines are a family of cysteine-rich, low molecular weight proteins. What's the main amino acid in glutathione? Yeah, it's cysteine, which represents nearly 30% of the constituent amino acid residues in metallethionines, I should say. Metallethionines transport both physiological, such as zinc, copper, selenium metals, and xenobiotic metals, such as cadmium, mercury, silver, arsenic, lead, through the thiol group of its cysteine residue. That means the sticky, smelly part of the glutathione molecule, the cysteine part, reaches out and grabs the metals. And that's how the metallethionine moves them around. Metallethionine needs molybdenum as a cofactor to function. Remember, it forms a molybdopterin. There are 23 metallethionine enzymes, and they all remove metals. There's a zinc one, a copper one, a cadmium one, just showing you some things I found just in Google images. People know this stuff, naturopaths especially. MDs not so much. So natural sources of molybdenum. That bowl of black-eyed peas contains 150 micrograms, 3 times the RDA of molybdenum. How many times do you eat black-eyed peas? Once or twice a year, maybe at most. It's not that much. Someone with fibro should eat it at least once a week. Navy beans are the other option. They're super high in molybdenum. And here's some other stuff that's not so high on it, barely. So really, the only two sources that are widely available in America are navy beans and black-eyed peas. And some of our ancestors ate a lot of, but not us. Boron is also critical. Supplementation increases ceruloplasmin. And so higher erythrocyte superoxide dismutase and serum enzymatic ceruloplasmin when they gave boron back to boron-deprived humans. Lower serum copper levels. Boom. Increases were depressed by boron. Doses 3 to 1 milligrams a day. Wait, is this Wilson's disease? I never thought so. Not when I was looking at these patients, because I didn't see any Kaiser-Fleischer rings, cardiomyopathy, renal tubular dysfunction, hepatomegaly, CNS disorders. Not maybe bordering on it, but not so much. I think it's really just a hypercuprosis. And so Wilson's is rare. 1 out of 30,000 humans have it. Fibromyalgia is, I think, 8% of the U.S. population. It's not the same. So this is my study. I had 40 fibromyalgia patients plus 3 severe headache patients, 43 total. All were on appropriate HRT if needed. You've got to address that. All turned out to have high NCC copper levels, greater than 20%. Most are above 34%, so they were significant. The more ill they were, the higher their copper levels. Isn't that interesting? Wheelchair bound, greater than 50%. Bedridden, greater than 70%. Pain modification was the main endpoint of this study. Since the endpoint was pain assessment, we tried to keep it simple. We used this 0 to 10 numeric pain rating scale. Conclusion of the study, the results. 2 of the 43 were outliers, and nothing had an effect on their pain. 41 had significant pain reduction. I mean significant. Their fibro is gone. Can you imagine? We'll talk about, I'll give you some case reports here in a second. Pain on average went from a 7 to 8 to 1 to 2. If you go to my website, danpurchermd.com, and look at the videos, you'll just hear all these fibro patients talking about this. We were quite surprised at the results. This demands more study, clearly. Holy cow. And that's why the pain journals, I think, have glommed onto this. I had some of the major pain experts in our area, a couple of which were editors of national pain journals that had it. National Pain Society sent me their worst fibro patients for the study. These were the ones that came in wheelchairs. They were bad and on all kinds of narcotics and everything else. You know what? None of them are on any narcotics or anything now. They take the compounded supplement I designed, and they do great. So let's look at these labs first and the results. Cryptopyrroles, just so you can see them. This is a normal cryptopyrrole, optimal, not a problem. This is a severe cryptopyrrole, so you know it really does exist. And this was in my worst fibro case, by the way. So let's use the NCC on another patient. This one's 29, zinc is 62. This is actually a nurse practitioner who works in our office. She had mild fibromyalgia. She was scared to death of it. Total copper is 116. Ceruloplasmin comes out to 30,000 micrograms per deciliter when you even it all out. And the copper to zinc ratio 1.87, which is high. Remember, 0.7 to 1.0 is a copper bound to ceruloplasmin 30,000 equals 90. Copper unbound 116 minus 9 equals 26. That's high. And the real number 22.4% for the NCC, barely high. But she wanted to be treated, so I treated her, and her symptoms went away. So she's like, I hate waking up achy, it's getting worse. And we treated her. Wow, she's young. So another young one. So remember, it's number 7 is the money number plus symptoms, of course. So now I just go by, do they have fibromyalgia here? You're treated. And then call me. Come back in. So patient 1. Well-educated 57-year-old female, severe fibromyalgia for 30 years, joint muscle pain off an 8 to 10 level, put her to bed, 3 to 4 plus brain fog, muscle wasting, on pain meds. Was sick of heart and sick of the meds like most. Myofascial fibro pain was often an 8 to 10 plus. Joint pain in her knees, backs, hips, jaws, same. Gut pain and digestive problems are horrible. Mostly constant now after 30 years. Bedridden most days. Yeah, what a life. Very sad. Sound like a patient any of you might have. Here's your chance. This was her Spectre cell. I looked at intracellular levels on her. Look at the glutathione deficiency. Isn't that interesting? Remember, it's multifactorial. So it's FDA and Health and Human Services approved. We use this at USC a lot, so I get in the habit of using it in my office. It's a real test. There's the glutathione. Sets you up for heavy metal toxicity. I don't know if this is other metals or not. I didn't test for them, but I tested for copper. It could be. B12 borderline deficiency was curious to me. Low in antioxidants set up for toxicity, right? Yeah, she was. This is the worst form of MTHFR, homozygous C677T. Bad news. My MTHFR booked 85% solution was #1 for all last month on Amazon. #1 healthcare, #1 medical book out there. No, the MTHFR is not a cause of copper toxicity. I don't think it has anything to do with this, so forget that argument. I could find no connection. Other genetic errors, though, might be like SUOX or NAT2 or GAD could be. So here's the formula. It ends up, let's just buzz through this. You can look at it later. But her free copper was 26%. It was high in the end. So we treated her. We put her in the study. It's not that high. It should be treated. We used a stable real GSH. She needed it. We used a zinc, B6, molybdenum, amino acid combination. And we even put that together and put a patent on it because it works so well in the study afterwards. And it works really well. be conservative. I'd start them off super low and go super slow because they can get copper dumping, and copper dumping is a big problem. Sometimes you just have to go to like where you're giving them one of each a week, and then you go to two a week, then three a week, then every other day, then daily, and go out slow because women are sick, and the men too. Symptoms of copper dumping or copper overload: insomnia, increased aches, pains, nausea, gut problems worsen. This is a strong reaction, very noticeable if you treat them too fast. You'll be surprised the first time you get this. Zinc picolinate was 50 milligrams a day. You can go higher, but I wouldn't go much higher. Vitamin B6 up to 25 to 50 milligrams a day. And naturally derived molybdenum, a chelated molybdenum up to 150 micrograms a day. Usually it's 50 to 100 micrograms is plenty. That's the one that can cause the worst copper dumping, so you got to go slow on those. Stable, reduced, absorbable GSH that really worked is critical. Through 350 to 500 milligrams a day, which is a really big dose. And added boron later, 3 milligrams a day. And avoided copper foods. Remember all the stuff? The kale, shrimp, lobster, all that. Dramatic improvement, pain now 0 to 2, feels normal most days. Happy and wants to go to Disneyland with grandchildren. Actually, her pain is 0 now. Because I wrote this for the ANP, the American Association of Naturopathic Physician talk, back in August. And now her pain's pretty much completely resolved. She has been to Disneyland. No more gut problems. Brain fog mostly resolved, pretty much completely. Case study 2, give you this one real quick. 64-year-old white female, fibro and headaches. Horrible, never-ending headache in right frontal area. Skull, 20 years. Picture is so appropriate. Severe anxiety, refused benzos or narcotics for pains. She suffered. Literally in pain all the time, 9 to 10. Devout, prayed often, poor thing. Had seen 20 different physicians or practitioners. She was not a doctor shopper. She was someone really trying to seek for an answer. MRIs, CATs, EEGs, all generally negative. This is your spectral cell. Look at that copper. Isn't that weird? She has a copper deficiency. Intracellular copper deficiency. Yet in a minute I'm going to show you that her non-ceruloplasmin bound serum copper levels are super high. This is where I started to conclude that it was metallothionein dysfunction, not getting copper where it should have been intracellularly, and dumping it because it wasn't working right where it shouldn't be, like in the muscles and the gut and everything. But it's serum myofascial copper toxicity. She has a really high NCC. Also, many B vitamin deficiencies. She's just of MT2R, which I have diagnosed in her since. We're in Utah. Everyone's blonde hair, blue eyed. We look like Norway here. Even I've got blonde hair, green, blue eyes, and crazy. So all Northern European descent where MT2R really hits. Look at all this B vitamin deficiency. And look, borderline glutathione deficiency too. Perfect setup. 9 to 10 pain level and head constantly stabbing, sharp pains, trigger points, 2 tons of them. Let's do her copper, zinc, ceruloplasmin, her NCC. Zinc is 75, boom. Copper is 180, boom. That's really high. Ceruloplasmin is 34,000. That's kind of low. Copper to zinc ratio 2.4, the highest we've seen. Copper unbound to ceruloplasmin is 102. Copper unbound is super high at 78. And her NCC is 43.3. That's significant. That was really high. And one of the highest I'd seen at the time. I think it was the highest I'd seen at the time. And it just explains so much about her. I thought, bingo, we figured it out. Yeah, wow. Another study on the left there of heavy metals and trace elements in patients with acute migraines, high copper. But they didn't use the NCC in that patient. If it was their severe fatigue and pain, the high copper level In the study lab, they did not use the NCC formula. If they did, it really changed the numbers dramatically. Those patients had super high NCC levels. So I use zinc picolinate again, B6. You got to use a special form of B6 called P5P. As you can see in the diagram on the right, so the P5P, we use it because that's why we give it, because it allows the homocysteine to convert to cysteine to form glutathione and metallothioneins. Boom and boom. Naturally derived molybdenum up to 150 micrograms a day, and boron too. Stable reduced absorbable GSH. Really hard to find. Like I said, I think we have matter of fact, I know from our patent we have the only one on the planet. Avoid copper foods. And I started her super slow. I'd handle her with kid gloves. I love this on the left. No more headaches. To naturally get rid of headaches, just eat 10 to 12 almonds, which is equivalent to taking 2 aspirins. BS. If you have copper toxicity, it will doom you. You have the most horrible headaches from that. Headaches slowly started to resolve with starting the zinc even. When she started on the 12.5 micrograms of molybdenum every other day, which I started a week later, I was doing her bit by bit. She really started improving. Again, is this really just a molybdenum deficiency? I'm not sure in her case, maybe, but she's a lot more complex than that, clearly. After she got to max dose, she almost had complete resolution of her headaches. Her brain fog and fatigue were mostly resolved. She and her husband were stunned, shocked. She spent tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars, been bedridden. She was a preacher, in essence, or educator and preacher here in Utah, and just really prominent. And this has just kind of ruined her life. She cried, she could sleep, her pain was gone for the first time in years. Wow. So let's look at some before-after labs. This is my 85-year-old with severe hyperketosis. Let me just buzz through these because you can do the formula. Look at that copper level, 205. Holy cow. So this lady, Richard Rosenthal, who's really famous, editor of a couple national pain journals, I called him up, a friend of mine, and said, send me your worst fibro case. Boy, did he. Thank you, Dr. Rosenthal. Great, great case. The family had to bring her in her wheelchairs, 3 nurse daughters, wheeling her in, husband walking by her, retired dairy farmer, just great people. And she could not even hardly move out of the chair for an examination. And here we go, super high levels. And 53.2%, not the highest case, but close. Second highest I've ever seen on copper toxicity. Severe, beyond severe fibro. It fit. So this is her treated, that was her ceruloplasma, sorry. This is her treated therapy, just 3 weeks. I'm going to check her again here because she's gone completely normal. Total copper is 244. Isn't that interesting? Went higher. I think because metallothioneins are moving it around when we drew it again 3 weeks later. But her pain had dramatically reduced. And her NCC was lower. 45.9, down substantially. So was her pain. Was a decrease. I bet it'd be 18, 19 now. She has no pain. They gardened all summer and brought me fruits and vegetables out of the garden. Can you believe that? Look at this day. This was last March. Oh, sorry. It was last March. And she and her husband gardened all summer. Or April, that was April, sorry. Closing thoughts. Copper toxicity could be the root cause of fibromyalgia, possibly severe headaches and migraines. Parallel disease does exist. I don't know what impact it really does have on fibromyalgia and copper toxicity. I don't even bother checking that, or pretty much copper levels and stuff now anyway. You can do it to begin with just to substantiate what I'm saying. But after 10 cases, I'd probably just go, yeah, fibro, let's just treat you. This is not Wilson's disease. This is probably from weaker dysfunctional metallothionein enzymes. Yeah, hyperketosis would be caused from lack of metallothionein enzymes. I know that's a stretch, that's out there, but I think I'm right. Looking at those spectra cells, I've got before and afters. I added to, a PowerPoint I gave to Dana last night, but it's just too late. We were exhausted. I was trying to get back from Hawaii, stuck at the airport, LAX, till 2 o'clock this morning. So probably a molybdenum, zinc, B6, boron, amino acids deficiency. So we combine those together. Also, you need an effective, accessible GSH. Boy, the $1,000,000 question. Where do you get that? How do you get that? And I'll let Dana handle this. So don't step on toes. Thank you. I love you guys. Good luck. I want fibro gone. Let's get rid of fibromyalgia. Try it on one patient and maybe see him for free and treat him, and then you'll know. So, okay, I'm going to turn off my mic for now.
Does anybody have any questions? You can type them into the chat or the question box off to the right-hand side. And thank you, Dr. Purser. That was really a very interesting talk.
Probably a little squirrely, but yeah, it needs a little more refinement now that I've had almost a year under my belt with these patients.
There is a product information page up on some of the products that contain the active ingredients that is talked about in his lecture, and we'll be sending out that information as well as his white paper. So we'll just wait another minute to see if there's any additional questions.
So Chris Killian asked, could you go over what should I do to lower my copper? Is there any specific food I should eat? Yeah, navy beans and black-eyed peas, and avoid shellfish, kale, almonds, cashews, and avocados. If my fibro patients backslide and eat one of those, they'll tell you they feel it. You'll see for yourself how they feel it. It's crazy. They'll go, I had a kale salad the other night. I forgot. Man, I hurt so bad on Tuesday, the day after. I could hardly move around. And my husband said, honey, you had kale last night. And so I figured it out. It's that obvious. So, which blows me away. I'm an MD, not a naturopath, or you know, I'm working in the real world here, so it surprises me.
Can you go over the actual starting doses?
Well, so we combine this into the one capsule, so it'd be cheaper and easier, so people don't have to shop around for all this stuff and trying to figure out which ones are which. And so I start patients on my severe fibro on one every other day, and my not so severe fibro is on one a day. And after a week or two, I'll go I'll go to either one a day or two a day, and then I'll go to 3 a day after another week, and then 4 a day. Rarely do they need to go higher. I have some who take 5 or 6 a day, but not many. And usually by the end of the second or third or fourth week, their symptoms have dropped dramatically. I know, it's crazy. So try it. Don't take my word for it. Just try it and see. You'll find out. And also, someone wants to know about the supplements that contain the GSH. That's still a product that we're working on. We're getting it bottled now and stuff. So, and I think Dan and them can discuss that more later. We have a couple patents on various forms of GSH. So, but this is the one that's oral in the supplement and works. And once you try it, you'll never try anything else. It's amazing. And yes, I think Dana is going to, this is being recorded and will be out there. So, because it works.
Send out an archived version as soon as it's ready. Chris, can you advance? I believe there's a few more slides.
Oh, that MTHFR support, I designed that based on what we saw with MTHFR patients. I think it's the best MTHFR support product on the planet. And if you think you have someone with MTHFR, it's definitely a great support product for them. It should be tried.
Okay, well, it looks like that's all
Hang
the
on.
questions I'm seeing.
No, there's still
Mm-hmm.
more coming up.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
the those foods, almonds, avocados, etc., are considered superfoods and can really help with T levels. Eliminate them completely. Um, not if they don't have fibromyalgia, you don't eliminate them at all. But if they have fibromyalgia, they should avoid them for at least 6 months. Um, The next question is the protocol successful without your form of GSH? Yes, it's multifactorial. I think it could be a B6 deficiency, it could be a molybdenum deficiency, it could be a GSH deficiency. It could be a boron deficiency. I tended to shotgun these patients um, because I was trying to prove a point. Is it copper toxicity? How do you lower it? How do you get the metallothioneins to function? And so I tended to use a shotgun approach and it worked. But I've had a lot of patients um, who just used the capsule and did fine. Got resolution of their symptoms and everything. I don't know any other way to naturally bring up GSH levels. It's so hard. You'll win a Nobel Prize in medicine, and maybe we will for figuring out how to make a true functional oral glutathione that can be absorbed. I'd like to think we would, but probably won't. Um, but the no, you don't need to use the GSH. Not with everyone. If they don't improve, then you add it. They go, I'm better, but not like I thought I would be. Then you add that. That's another option too. But most of these patients just want to do it all. None of this stuff is expensive, and they just want to, start living a normal life. They're so tired of being sick. And once they start getting better, you got to watch out. They'll also sneak up too fast on the capsules, on the molybdenum and everything. They'll start taking 4 or 5 capsules a day, 2 days into it, because they notice improvement within a couple of days. And that's for some, and you can't let them do that. You got to go, no, back it off. S-acetylglutathione, we haven't found it worked. We can, again, look at the Bastyr study and other studies. I don't recheck the levels. Also, during the 6 month, we just did it for the study. I just talk to the patient and get them to rate their pain, and they'll go, my pain's down 80%. It's been a month or 6 weeks. I usually have them follow up a month later, and then I'll say follow up again in 2 months. They do, and they'll go, I'm pretty much pain-free. I'll go, be patient. It'll get even better. And they'll go, my brain fog's gone. I'm not confused. I feel amazing. It's just a crazy thing, but I think it's just a metallothionein issue. And I know that's just completely wacky and out there. And if I'd ever heard this talk 20 years ago, I would have laughed and thought that guy's a moron. But super easy. Just try it, and you'll see right away if I'm right or not. So that simple, and you'll become the fibro god for treatment god for your area. So I don't know, just thinking out loud. Sorry, maybe I should shut up now. Sorry, Dana.
All right. I'm not seeing any more questions come in. Have you?
Sorry, I keep seeing more. General length of time for using the protocol ongoing. You know what? If it's GAD or NAT2 or whatever, I think yes, they should continue it ongoing. Maybe not at 4 of those capsules a day, maybe at 2 a day, but after 6 months. So I usually treat them for 6 months, and then let them kind of back off and just take it when they need it. What would a normal serum copper and ceruloplasmin with high urine copper mean? I don't know. Not enough of a metal expert to know that. I just went after copper toxicity in the NCC to prove it. The problem with NAC, this person asks, if you take NAC, do you still need to take your special GSH formula to increase reduced GSH? The problem with NAC is the problem isn't that they have a cysteine deficiency. The problem is these people either genetically or through other issues, a B6 deficiency, something, can't reduce glutathione back down. And we know through a number of studies that it's glutathione peroxidase, enzyme is not functioning correctly, just like metallothioneins don't function. If they don't function correctly, it's a problem. Does GH treatment help with the metallothionein receptor problem? I think GH, if a growth hormone deficiency properly diagnosed and handled, helps a lot of these fibro patients dramatically. And they'll tell you, even when their fibro's cleared up, they're like, I still need the GH, I'm just not taking as much of it. I'll take it 3 days a week instead of 7, like I was doing. But I feel that much better. So I don't need as much of it, so I saved a ton of money there. And I don't need as much of it. But most of them still need it. I don't know if it helps with the metallothionein receptor functionality. It might. I'm always curious as to what helps with metallothionein or receptor function. Serum methionine is excellent for supporting glutathione production. Oh, methionine is excellent for supporting glutathione production. Yeah, because it's in that pathway I showed you earlier, and there's more complex diagrams of that pathway. You're completely correct on that. It would be helpful, but it's according if they're deficient in it or not. And that's why you got to figure out what they're deficient in. So, and our glutathione is not expensive, so, and it's the only one out there that we believe that works. So we looked at over 50 of them off Amazon in our own studies. So you can look at my website, danpursermd.com, or find me on Amazon or LinkedIn or Facebook or anywhere. I'm all over the place. I think I have 50,000 followers on Facebook. And I've spoken all over the world. I haven't talked about this all over the world, just a couple of big conferences here in the U.S. More will come out when it hits the journals. So super interesting. So what is your criteria for properly diagnosing HGH deficiency? I did pituitary endocrinology research with a team at USC, and my friend down there was a U.S. Assistant Surgeon General from Harvard. USC brought him out there out of the Surgeon General's office because because they didn't have a pituitary endocrinologist in Southern California. Listen to what I just said. There was not a true pituitary endocrinologist in all of Southern California that USC knew of. And so they needed one out there. And there's probably 15 or 20 or 30 maybe at most in the entire U.S. Most endocrinologists, as my friend explained to me, are below the neck and don't really get pituitary issues. If you're having problems with endocrinologists in your area, that's why. They don't even understand what you're doing. And really, if you're using HRT properly, you're actually handling pituitary issues for the most part. We stem tested stuff like that, but I'll do a fasting, IGF-1, and at least an overnight fast, water only. You got to get them temporarily off of things like certain medications like Lyrica, Cymbalta, certain antidepressants, because it skews the IGF-1 levels up dramatically. It pushes them higher than they are. And you can, as my friend said, who was a U.S. Assistant Surgeon General from Harvard and NIH and Walter Reed, what he said was, you can diagnose a growth hormone deficiency with a low IGF-1 and symptoms. It's only the insurance companies that require and maybe some medical licensing boards when they try and nail you, but that requires the STEM testing. I'll often get STEM testing still, but it's so hard to find anyone in the area who does it. And I don't do them alone. I'll do them at USC, but I won't do them up here. So that's my criteria. So, and thank you, everyone. I hope I haven't talked your ear off too badly. And hopefully you guys will try this and see how well it works. It's pretty crazy. So
great. Thank you, Dr. Purser. We'll be sending along additional product information as well as a white paper he put together on the research study he did. I hope our listeners enjoyed it as much as I did. Our next webinar will feature Dr. Rouzier and is scheduled for February 14th. Thank you again, Dr. Purser, and thanks to everyone who joined us. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.